By 3 p.m. today, the swing states, Michigan, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, will respond to the lawsuit by Texas, joined by 17 other states and 100 and some legislators in the U.S. Congress. Do not expect the Supreme Court to overturn this fraudulent election. As I've said in my book, it takes a revolution, forget the scandal industry. These judges, by and large, are establishment political hacks. They're not going to stick their neck out to overturn an election. They probably will fear for their life if they do with regard to the radical left. Remember the book Pelican Brief by John Grisham, who, by the way, is a relative of Bill Clinton, if you can believe that. Killing of a Supreme Court justice, something I don't suggest, obviously, but something which has to be on their mind, given the state of affairs in this country today. And when the Supreme Court turns down this effort by Texas and the other states and Congress and those concerned citizens, all hell's going to break loose. And it'll be very obvious that we are in a revolution. It takes a revolution, forget the scandal industry. And despite the hype that you hear on Hannity and other places that this is major breaking story, the best the Supreme Court could do at this point would be to order a new election. Frankly, that would be fine, but I doubt they're going to do that either. Because what we're dealing with here are unelected officials, not accountable to we the people. And that is exactly what Jefferson predicted would happen, that they would become despots and tyrants, and that someday we would have to fight yet another revolution. In fact, he said about every 20 years, we would have to shed the blood of patriots and what's a few thousand dead to refresh the tree of liberty. So I want you to go out and get my book because it's very timely. I didn't write this book like Hannity or some public interest groups that were most likely ghost-written books. I wrote it myself. It came from my heart. 43 years of experience of fighting in the legal trenches of Washington, D.C. and throughout the country, dealing with compromised and corrupt federal judges in particular, who put their own interests ahead of the interests of the American people. Judges who got their job, generally speaking, not on the basis of merit. There's a few exceptions, very few, but on the basis of lining the pockets of those who put them up for nomination with campaign contributions, which they themselves gave, or which their law firms, corporations, labor unions gave on their behalf. It's just one example. Wilmer Hale, the law firm of Robert Mueller and Jeannie Rhee of the Russian witch hunt fame, or shall we say infamy, got 2 judges on the District Columbia Court, the lower court, the federal court in Washington, D.C. One who was a Trump appointee and one who was an Obama appointee. In addition to their own contributions, these judges got money bundled from Wilmer Hale. Another judge from Rhode Island, Sheldon Whitehouse, that corrupt senator from Rhode Island you've seen during Judiciary Committee hearings. I call him Sheldon Outhouse. $500,000 got one of his judges a post during the Obama administration. These judges are bought and paid for, and make no mistake about it, so are Supreme Court justices. So don't take it with a grain of salt when this thing is over and when the Supreme Court fails to save the American people, because the only people that can save the American people are the American people themselves. And that is why we must rise up and fight a second revolution. And I'm suggesting peacefully and legally, because if we don't do it, others in this country, not me, not you, will take it to the streets, and this country will come apart more than it even has today. There's another issue out there today, and that's the issue of Attorney General Bill Barr, another establishment swamp creature who I've called Blowhard Bill or Puxatawny Bill for the groundhog in Pennsylvania that runs into the hole nearly every February 2nd. He suppressed information, can you believe this, of an investigation of Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's brother that has been going on for 2 years. Not that we give that investigation much credence, because the Justice Department is compromised as well. This is my alma mater. They don't go against the elite. They don't go against the privileged people in Washington, D.C. You can see that with the Bonnie and Clyde of American politics, Bill and Hillary Clinton having gotten off scot-free for all the crimes they've committed over these years. But the very information itself could have helped President Trump win this election even without the fraud. And this tells you who Bill Barr is. Hasn't indicted or prosecuted Comey, the Lovebirds, Brennan, Clapper, the Obamas, the Clintons, they're off limits. Also, the other elite officials that have come before the Justice Department only to get a free pass. This tells you not only are these judges compromised and corrupt, but so is the deep state in the executive branch, the establishment branch, like Barr, who protects his own skin because he wants to be part of the Washington Club. And in Washington, with the NSA, with the CIA, with the FBI, all these intelligence sources, they have dirt on everybody. It's mutual assured destruction. So they look out for their own skin and don't represent the interests of the American people. And then, of course, there's the recently disclosed case of Eric Swalwell, the dumbest white man in Congress. Unbelievable. This clown, a California representative, obviously had an affair with a communist Chinese spy, and that was suppressed. Now, he was single at the time, so we're not calling him an adulterer. But the guy is just simply stupid. And obviously, sex took its precedence over the people of the United States, and he was most likely compromised. He sits on the Intelligence Committee. Nancy Pelosi suppressed this, and apparently Republicans knew about it too, such as Paul Ryan, by the way, who is now on the board of directors of News Corp, which owns Fox News. This is what we're dealing with. The leaders, so-called leaders, they're not leaders at all. Frankly, they're criminals who are running this country. They need to be removed, and we need to wage a second American revolution. And in my book, It Takes a Revolution, Forget the Scandal Industry, I suggest the use of citizens' grand juries, which are legal, as we used last fall when we indicted Robert Mueller, and we will try him once the COVID-19 subsides and we can have people in a courtroom. But the American people can do it for themselves. In the old days of Wyatt Earp and before that, we didn't have a Justice Department. The American people meted out justice themselves. And we intend to do it fairly and equally and give people an opportunity to defend themselves. But rest assured that Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, his brother, and all these criminals, Comey, McCabe, the Lovebirds, Strzok, Page, Bruce Orr, the Clintons, the Obamas, and of course the Bidens, will be held accountable by the American people. And as I detail in my book, It Takes a Revolution, we even have a right to do citizens' arrest. We will not do that with force, but with persuasion. And we, of course, hope, against all hope, that we would have law enforcement that would carry out the indictments and convictions. But if not, the American people have the right to carry it out themselves. And that's a fact, and that's what we did in 1776, when King George and his yes men on the court in London rubber-stamped every tyrannical edict, took away our legal system, our criminal justice system. And the founding fathers said, when the sovereign breaks its bonds with the American people, this is the Declaration of Independence, we have a God-given right under the laws of nature and the laws of God to alter and abolish our form of government and to form a new government by and for the people with inalienable rights for everyone, equality for everyone. The American people have no equality. We're living in slavery, much like the ancient Hebrews did in Egypt. These deceitful, dishonest, and criminal politicians, and frankly judges, are on the verge of destroying this country. And we, the American people, must rise up, or we will have no country. And we're very close to that right now. That is my message. Go out and get my book, It Takes a Revolution. You can buy it at Amazon.com. I didn't write it to make money. It's inside of me. It wasn't ghost written. It's based on my experience of 43 years in the trenches, fighting against this evil, corrupt, devil-inspired government, which is no government at all. God bless you. God bless the American people. If we help ourselves, God will be there with us with his hand on our shoulders. Until tomorrow, thank you for listening to me. I'll be back with another special podcast this Monday. Thank you.
When you're sick, every minute counts. So don't go anywhere. Go to dispatchhealth.com where high-quality medical care comes directly to you. No getting out of a sick bed. No crazy driving to an emergency room. No endless paperwork. No hospital waiting rooms. Visit dispatchhealth.com to learn about our medical professionals, then make house calls. Dispatch Health is covered by Medicare and most major insurance. Go to dispatchhealth.com.